Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we go through the 21st century. And we're looking at various technologies that are really going to address a planet that's going to 9 billion souls by 2050. And we're going to be adding 2 billion of those over the next 25, 30 years. And so how are we going to provide the basic infrastructure that's needed to do that? One of those infrastructures, of course, is transportation, as we are adding many people to all continents around the globe, as well as in most countries. We have a gentleman who's actually working on how we're going to be able to update and expand the roadways that are out there. We have Warren Kelm, who is the president of the Recycled Asphalt Pro. And we have a special guest with us sitting right here. This is Joel Coulter. He's the president of Mobile Service Sciences Consortium. And Warren's coming in by Skype. And so we have Joel and Warren. And Warren, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. And Joel, welcome back.
Thank you.
Glad to have you with us.
Sam.
Warren, tell us a little bit about your organization, the Recycled Asphalt Pro. What is the organization, a little of its history, and then we're going to start showing some of your technologies.
We started Recycled Asphalt Pro about 1.5 years ago, and we're located in Carrollton, Ohio. We basically formed it up to take advantage of some research and development we had done to looking at the asphalt systems and all the amount of RAP, which is the grindings that come off of roads and then ends up stockpiled, and literally there are hundreds of millions of tons of this material waiting to be recycled.
Yeah, that's you were telling me how many tons per year it's being generated of this RAP, and what does RAP actually stand for?
Actually, RAP means recycled asphalt pavement, and it's the grindings that they take off of older road surfaces and then repave over that old road surface. It's a system to level out potholes and get a longer life out of a road base. There are basically 90 million tons of RAP produced just in the United States alone, and about 500 million tons a year overseas as a worldwide total. Of that, 25 to 30% gets recycled, which leaves hundreds of millions of tons in stockpiles that in some areas are considered hazardous waste. And it's a cheap way to go if you could recycle that material because it contains the stone and the asphalt already in it.
Well, you were telling me, Warren, that with the technology you have, and we have this life cycle of asphalt, we'll go through this in just a minute on this slide, but that you can, in essence, instead of using just 25 to 30%, with the new technologies you have, you can use virtually 100% of this to go back in the roadway. Is that correct?
That's correct. When I first met Mike Lucas and Jerry Collette, they have two colleagues we worked with on this project together, it was explained that they needed a way to indirectly heat versus a direct fire, which tends to destroy the asphalt and cause major pollution. And our specialty, my background, is in heating systems using indirect heat, including heated augers and drums.
And we're going to show that. Go through this life cycle right quick, and then we want to bring up some of the actual technology you're going to use as far as recycling this asphalt. This is really an incredible story.
Yes, we'll go ahead and actually prepare a road surface, and it's what you see on an everyday asphalt paving group. There's an asphalt plant. It heats up the stone and the materials. And then that material's loaded into trucks, and they take it out where it is paved over an older surface or a new surface. And over time and wear and tear and weather and freeze and thaw, it develops potholes or the surfaces crack and deteriorate. Then a crew comes in and grinds that material off, and that forms RAP. And the RAP is hauled to a stockpile where it awaits recycling.
And this is what this actually looks like, so that people will know exactly what we're talking about. This picture here as far as number 5, but this is what the RAP really looks like. And you say there's, what, 90 million tons a year, you're saying, that's generated of this around the United States?
Just in the United States alone. That particular picture is the first pile that we made with our system and recycled it.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. Now tell us about this. This is kind of the secret sauce, if you will, of what you're doing, and the request in order to be able to take this material and use 100% of it.
One of the things we can make here are auger flights. They use them in coal mining, and in this particular case, this is a double-walled flight, and we can run hot oil through it. The advantage is there's a tremendous amount of surface area versus just a rotary drum, so we can actually input tremendous amounts of heat into the RAP without a direct flame. And that's one of the secrets to our system.
And the whole thing about that, Warren, as we're learning here, is that when you're doing it through the middle of it, it radiates out through all of the material within the drum itself, but you're not destroying the asphalt. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. We're actually running our system at about 600 to 650 degrees versus a flame temperature of about 1700 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, well, I'm going to put up this next slide, but Joel Coulter is sitting right beside me, is going to ask the next question. Sure. Joel?
Thank you, Sam. Warren, so what challenges does a normal asphalt plant face when it starts building up this large supply of RAP?
Well, first of all, the existing plant stockpile gains more and more moisture as it's sitting there exposed to the wind and rain and snow. Then as an asphalt plant starts to try and use this RAP, they have to superheat their material up into the So what happens is you have a steam explosion, and the material just does not make a good mix, and it limits the amount that you can recycle to about 25% maximum of what the drum can run.
Now, looking at this is actually, you're talking about the growing inventories. This is a classic example, I guess, Warren, what we're seeing all over the United States. But tell us about this extracting value of this, because I think that's one of the questions we have is how much can you actually save the local governments, state governments, as far as recycling this? And I know you're saying that the private companies are directly involved in this, but it goes, the taxpayers ending up paying for all this regardless.
That's true. Basically, pavement right now in the market is about $55 a ton actual cost with new materials, whereas the RAP, by the time you grind it down, stockpile it, and if you would use our system, you actually recycle it, and that cost is about $25. So you have a market savings of between $25 and $30, or about 50%. It's that significant of a thing. Now, keep in mind also we're recycling the asphalt, which is a crude oil product, so we actually cut down our need for crude oil.
Yeah, so that's a tremendous savings as far as whether you're producing it within the United States or you're importing it from overseas. Any one drop of crude oil that you can avoid using is good for the taxpayer, but also good for the environment at the same time. Tell us about this market assessment.
Well, we worked with Ohio University to develop this particular set of slides, and basically the savings, as you can see, are just vast numbers, almost incomprehensible. And it's all due to the amount of recycled asphalt pavement that is on stockpile right now. If we could catch up with that stockpile in the next few years, the savings are in the billions of dollars.
Yeah, and the whole thing about it too is that you have these stockpiles sitting there, and they're actually emitting these spent oils that's coming out of the asphalt going into the groundwater. So the long-term damage to the environment is much greater than what we can even imagine, I would assume. Is that correct, Warren?
Yes, yeah, they have to go to settling ponds and then skim any of the surface oil as it floats on the water ponds. Has to be skimmed off and either burned or buried. So this eliminates that project. Plus, you have all this huge stockpile that is just basically laying to waste right now. The only other use is to bury it and put it in holes.
Yeah, so that means something that's going to last longer than a cemetery is going to be out there, and just a terrible situation. I think this is your design that we have coming up on this slide here. Tell us what we're looking at and how this actually processes the RAP through this system.
That's a cutaway of the actual system, and the material's fed in on the left side of it, and it actually shows the rotary drum in a kind of a violet color there, and the auger that's heated. It's showing it running down the full length of it. The unique part of it is, of course, the heated auger, and instead of a direct fire, we actually heat from the outside on the oven, and then all of the excess heat goes through the blue pipe, goes back across through the inside of the drum, and flashes moisture off. So we use all of the heat that we possibly can. And then any of the fumes and moisture that comes off of this product are actually fed into what we call a hot oil heater oxidizer there on your screen. And at that point, we actually heat those fumes and burn them so that they're clean. And we use that heat to make the hot oil that heats the heated auger.
And this is your last, we're running out of time, Warren. Where you see your company going over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And you got about 15 seconds to share all that.
Okay, well, we see where we're going to not only hit the market here in the United States, but actually all over the world. It's a wide open market for us at this point, and this machine can also make clean new asphalt if necessary.
I tell you, that's absolutely fantastic. Well, this is Warren Kelm, who is the president of Recycled Asphalt Pro, Inc., coming in by Skype. And sitting right beside me is Joel Coulter, president of Mobile Sciences Consortium. And thank you for being with us as we're looking at the new technologies that are going to allow us to move forward as we add 2 billion people to the planet as we create the Emerald Planet.
And now, thanks to Empowered Women International, a way for emerging and established immigrant and refugee artists and artisans to find hope to earn a living while enriching the lives of all of us. Empowered Women International, making a better America every day. For more information on Empowered Women International's educational programs, or to make a tax-free donation, contact cfrip at AOL.com.
Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight. But that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. We do know that 80% of all childhood learning is visual. And without good vision, kids can have trouble learning to read and may fall behind in school. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems and what parents can do, visit checkyearly.com. A public service message from the Vision Council of America and Reading is Fundamental.
we're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, the products, and also the process and people are making a difference as we add 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050. And so when you have a planet of 9 billion souls, how are we going to be able to take care of them? The food, the fuel, the fiber, the healthcare, education, everything else that goes into that. And at the same time, we need to be protecting the environment now and not wait till all these people start arriving on the planet, and then we need to be able to dealing with this. We have a gentleman who is actually creating and developing green products that can be used for a number of different uses. Dr. John Lopes, who is the president of Microcide, Inc., is going to be coming into us by Skype. And then sitting right beside me is Joel Coulter, and Joel's the president of Mobile Sciences Consortium. And so, Joel, looking at what John Lopes is doing in Microcide, why do we need to really be doing the research, the development of more green products as we move towards 2050?
Right, Sam, it's really around the term resiliency. I think as the Earth gets older, there's just less and less of things, less water, less fertilizer, less things. And so by having green innovations, and then also with the innovations of creative technologies, our sensors, our internet, then we're able to help farmers and help all these green technologies minimize their use of limited resources.
Yeah, and so as we add these 9 billion people, you know, the planet is really drying out, and we're working very diligently, you know, to create new resources, but instead of just creating new resources, be able to conserve what we have. So you've been involved in the environment and resiliency and sustainability for literally as many years as I have. So this whole thing of balancing resiliency and sustainability, how do we balance that, Joel?
Well, I think it's a lot of it is in the capacity building of education. I think a lot of practices and policies and activities really are because people just don't know how to take the best care of their land or the best care of their water. And so the great news is, as a country, the United States, we are sharing our innovations around the world. And while we do produce a lot of things, we also enjoyed collaborating, like this show, Emerald Planet TV. It's one of the major shows where we share our innovations with the world. And then we follow that up with more innovative practices, training, so that, you know, what we learn benefits our communities can benefit communities around the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're a major collaborator. This is one of the things I appreciate about you over the many years I've known you. So there's many things the United States is sharing around the globe, and we're doing all that. At the same time, there's much that we can be learning from the world.
Yes, it is.
So in your work as far as the Mobile Sciences Consortium, what kind of things can we be bringing in from overseas that could be helpful to the United States? We process those, adapt those, and then in turn we're going to send this back out to the world, and so we keep this going.
Right. I think, well, in Argentina and Australia and a lot of the countries now, they're taking leadership in areas that we're not yet, because sometimes we have policies that prevent us from doing things. In the areas of precision agriculture and remotely piloted vehicles, we know that they're using imagery of systems to try to optimize where they put water. And now we're not doing that yet here in this country. We are innovating in those areas, but sometimes we have with the FAA and the FCC, because of our crowded airspace, we cannot do things that other countries can do. And so actually I think innovation and entrepreneurship is a global phenomenon. Mm-hmm. It's not just in the United States. And so I do believe with universities, and we're more and more now seeing students, even as interns, go overseas now. I think the exchange is increasing in, unbelievably, and with TV and multimedia, the broadband getting to the remote parts of the world, I think the future of being able to feed 9 billion people is there.
Right. Now, we're waiting for John Lopes, Dr. John Lopes. Is John available? Okay, all right, we're waiting to get him on Skype. So looking at this thing, just like you're talking about the interns we're sharing, we're bringing in literally tens of thousands from overseas on a year-to-year basis.
Yes.
At the same time, we're sending people out from the United States. So what do interns bring that's really useful for the next and the next generations?
Well, I was telling people about, back in the mid-90s at VCU, we started this thing called the
That's
first...
Virginia Commonwealth University, so people know what it is.
We started this thing called the First Robotics Program and Lego League with Mindstorm. And we had kids in schools around the country competing. They have 8 weeks to build a robot, and they'd all get together in a big gym, and then they'd all compete.
Oh, I used to go to those. I tell you,
Yes.
they were fascinating, and the innovation they would come up with, many ideas that the industry didn't even have.
Right. I mean, we found over the years with First Robotics and Lego League and now with AUVSI that students have an amazing capacity to innovate.
That's fantastic. Okay, I think we have Dr. John Lopes, president of Microcide. And John, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you, Dr. Hancock, and good evening.
Well, glad to have you. And I'm going to put up some of your slides that you shared with us here so we can have both you and some of the images from what you're doing. But tell us, what is Microcide? What's the work that you're doing?
The word microcide itself means killing the bacteria. If you see our logo, which is round with patches in the white, you can see that antibiotic deposited on a single paper strip, they kill the bacteria, and see produce halo around a bacterial lawn, which is red. So that is our logo. So we kill bacteria in a very safe way. It's totally different. And Microcide is dedicated Michigan technology that produces antimicrobial products only using food grade or grass ingredients which have been referred to by FDA as safe and non-toxic.
Yeah, I think this is something in the slides that we have up here, John, is talking about some of these things. And tell us a little bit about what we're looking at. And more than that, though, John, why is it important for the public know about your products, and what do we need to be aware of as we're adding, 2 billion new people? We're becoming much more crowded. And so the pathogens, there's shorter transmission times and, closer with just the density of populations.
Absolutely. Because as the population increases, there is a distribution and increase of transportation and intermingling of population. So if the influenza happens to be in China, the next day it will come to United States. So we have to be protected with the products which are safer, non-toxic, and yet very effective.
Yeah,
So
and I think this is the thing that we need to be very aware of, John, as we're moving forward. And I'm going to put some of your products up here. Tell us about how this works. And I know that you've been very concerned about food safety and wanting to make sure that use these all-natural organic products in order to protect people, particularly as we're going to more raw vegetables, milk, meat, and all these things that are not being processed as in the past.
Absolutely, because as the population increases, the distribution centers are concentrated, and one distribution center can send food all over the country. So that particular distribution center gets contamination. You can spread the infection like wildfire throughout so we have to have a product which is very effective and which is safe, so that the product doesn't cause any harm effects, ill effects to the people who are using it. You can kill bacteria with chlorine, but chlorine can produce carcinogens, and it can produce byproducts which are harmful to individuals for consuming it. It may not display the harm right away, but over a time, the byproducts will accumulate in your body, and you get cancers and other elements.
And I know too, John, this is something, and then I'm going to let actually Joel ask the next question, is that we want to remove any of the harmful effects on the water, the soil, and the air. And I think with your all-natural organics, that's what you're doing as well, is to make sure that there's no long-lasting impact within the earth and the waterways themselves, correct?
Correct, because we have developed a technology where the antimicrobial effect is modulated. So once you use the product and release it in the environment, the product no longer has antimicrobial effect. So it can be chewed or metabolized by environmental bacteria and doesn't leave any footprints.
Oh, that's fantastic. Let's, Joel, why don't you ask the next question? Because this leads to the next question, John.
Right. So within your product, it's a unique technology. Where does it apply? In the safety of our food supply, where do you apply your products?
You can apply from farm to the table. You can apply in the fields on agriculture where the pests and antimicrobial or bacteria affect the crops. You can use it while collecting it. You can spray it on the trucks. You can use it during transportation, storage, packaging, and grocery stores, and also for home consumers.
Yeah,
you can use from farm to the table on all the steps.
Yeah, and also too, what we're looking at here before, this is something that's going to be used on a commercial grade, and then you have the personal hygiene and care with some of this. So looking at the ingredients, I know you're saying this is all natural and it comes from something that's produced in a natural and organic way. How do you actually process this so that you keep it and certify it that it really is all organic and natural?
To start with, to avoid all the toxicity and ill effects of the chemicals, we select chemicals or ingredients which are certified by the Food and Drug Administration and also by the USDA as safe for use as a grass, generally regarded as safe, and also doesn't have any toxicity. So incorporating these chemicals, we do not have any chemical reaction. We produce chemicals which are almost inert. You can put your hand in it, and unlike chlorine, it won't burn or have any other effect.
We're going to lose you in just a few seconds, John. Where do you see your company going and growing over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And you need to be quick.
We are going everywhere. We are also going to the Mars. In the next 5 years, we are working with NASA, and we are going to go in every home and every industry and every grocery store.
Okay, this
in
is
every country.
It's fantastic. Dr. John Lopes, President of Microcide Inc. Joel Coulter beside me, and as we're looking around the globe to find these new products as we move towards 2050 to create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.
Gorgeous force is what you desire. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Yeah.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking for those best of the best, the practices, the technologies, the services, processes, and the people that are generating all these new ideas, the innovation to generate sustainability and stability and also resiliency as we move through the 21st century. And as we go towards 2050, we have a planet of 9 billion folks. We need to be able to take care of all of them in a way that's actually going to enhance their standard of living and quality of life and not just have people that are existing on the planet. And we have a gentleman who is looking at this whole notion of not only transportation, but also how to reduce the dependency on fossil fuels, at the same time to clean the environment and to make sure that we have, as 2 billion new people join the planet, an even cleaner environment. This is Ray Kammel. He is the president. He has an organization called Energy and Emissions, Inc. He's coming in by Skype, and sitting right beside me is Joel Coulter. He is the president of Mobile Sciences Consortium. And Ray, are you here?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about your company, Energy and Emissions, Inc., the little of its background, and then we're going to start talking about some of the technologies that you've developed that does a host of different very good things for the environment and also for humanity.
It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to make our case upfront. Our technology is a little bit complex to package it in 13 minutes or so, but I'll do my best and things could be filled later on. But our technology
Tell us a little bit about your company first, Ray, and then we'll get into the technology. A little bit about the Energy and Emissions, Inc.
Okay, the company started as a result of natural gas fracking. It changed the energy balance, brought some interesting issues. And the major one is the cost of natural gas is very low compared to the cost of diesel fuel, and it burns a lot cleaner. We took that a lot of steps further, and that's how we started Energy and Emission Solution. The company is organized with experts in different areas. We rely on outside experts in turbocharging, in catalyst technology, in engine technology, and so forth.
Now, looking at this diagram we have here, Ray, this is something that's both very sophisticated and simple, but yet very complex because a lot of this technology exists, but you're enhancing and improving in order to reduce the cost and use of fossil fuels, at the same time to be able to, and this is where I really want you to focus, almost 100% of the heavy particulate matter and the greenhouse gas emissions. Tell us how this system works.
Okay, the key element in this system is the recuperating turbocharger, which is right after the engine, and that's the compressor of the turbocharger. Next to it is the turbine. After the turbocharger, this cylindrical device, we call it four-way catalytic reactor. And these are the core of our technology. Everything else that you see there, it's pretty much known industry-wide.
Okay, and looking at this, these are, I believe, some of the special areas that you've gone in and either developed something totally new or enhanced existing technologies. Tell us how this fits into, whether a diesel engine for over-the-road trucks or the peak and the backup generators as far as buildings, commercial, otherwise.
Okay, the device that you see on the top is the four-way catalytic reactor. And the beauty about that device is that all criteria, air pollution from diesel engines, hydrocarbon, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter are destroyed at 95 to 98 or 99%. The other components on your right is a microprocessor that we design in-house, and we know what to go about doing it in terms of hardware and software. And then you see here the recuperating turbocharger and other elements that constitute the major components of the system.
That's great. Well, Joel Coulter is sitting right beside me, and he's going to ask the next question, John.
Yes, Ray. What in your background and experience contributed to your ability to discover not only the innovation you created, but to put together all these off-the-shelf capabilities into a whole new system that really addressed and cleans almost all the heavy particulate matter from GHG emissions?
That's a good question, by the way. I have a degree in mechanical engineering, but that's not the major qualification I have. I'm an entrepreneur with a knack for solving problems that other engineers shy away from them. It's because it's new or anything like that. And that's how I left corporate America. I used to work on jet engines, R&D, and nuclear power plants. And now I had my own business for about 30 years. And that takes me from one endeavor to another one. The focus in the first 20, 25 years have been on reducing particulate and nitrogen oxides from diesel engine. And I built about 60 units that have been installed on trucks and buses. And they were financed by the APA. This new opportunity is driven by the need to have reliable sources to provide peak load demand for utilities, because the use of electricity is increasing more and more, and the demand for peak load is creating havoc all over the country.
Well, I know as the grid that we have becomes, as they say, more and more creaky because it's very old. It goes back, some of it well over 100 years, and we've been cobbling onto this for a long time. But what's some of the major benefits you have, Ray, as far as your technologies are concerned to address this issue of peak time and also backup electric diesel generators?
Well, the key thing that we have here was the outcome of few meetings that I had. The most important one was in Albany, New York, with NYSERDA. And they showed a lot of interest in taking advantage of standby diesel generators, where these units are, for all practical purposes, sitting idle. They're not allowed to operate more than 50 hours a year because of the emission issues. And the interest here is how to turn these idle assets into working assets. And that was the impetus that started our interest here in this field. And the major benefit, by the way, of our technology is that by employing a high percentage of natural gas to diesel substitution, the cost of fuel would be drastically reduced by about 40 to 60%. We can reduce the emission by running the engine at stoichiometric condition. And by the way, I'm going through this quickly.
You have about 2.5 minutes left, and we'll be done. So,
okay.
But anyway, looking at this in the prime and the backup generators, you're trying to reduce the operating cost at the same time to reduce the carbon footprint. How do you balance that so that you're maximizing both the cost reduction and then reducing the greenhouse gas emissions to the environment, which is of critical interest to the entire planet?
Well, the key element here simply is what percentage of diesel fuel we are substituting it with natural gas. And the beauty about natural gas is that it's less expensive and it's less polluting than diesel fuel. And we have a lot of natural gas, so it is the most logical way to go about doing that. The most important thing is that using the combination of what I call it biofuel or dual fuel diesel engines using natural gas and diesel fuel for injection, is that the engine can run at very favorable conditions.
Yeah, we're just about running out of time, Ray, so I'm going to just go through a couple of these slides of the technologies that you've developed. But where do you see your company going over the next 5, 10, 15 years, Ray, as you seek to, again, to do this balance of reducing operating costs, increase efficiency, at the same time reduce the carbon footprint?
The market needs few installation in place with test results confirming everything that we have. I don't think having 1 or 2 units is good enough, but I like to use the word anywhere from 5 to 10 units. Make sure that durabilities are good. And so in the next 2 or 3 years, it's slow. But then beyond that, I think we can expand by quite a margin, and the only limitations are engineering and finances.
This is Ray Kammel, the president of Energy Emissions, Inc. Joe Coulter beside me as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet and Director and host of Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis looking around the globe in 144 different nations looking for what we call the 1,000 best practices. The best of the best as far as technologies, services, products, processes, and of course, the people. And we're going to a planet with 9 billion souls, and it's very important that we be able to provide all the basic infrastructure to take care of these new populations, but a level that's actually going to enhance and increase the quality of life and not just have people existing. And we have a gentleman joining us by Skype, and he's on the frontier of using algae for a number of different uses. One is we're going to talk about specifically, but it's about food production, but also he has a number of other ideas and technologies coming along using algae. This is Hugh Morris. We can see here he's the Chief Operations Officer of AlgEternal Technologies. And then sitting right beside me is special guest Joel Coulter, the President of Mobile Sciences Consortium. And Hugh, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Sam.
Tell us about your name. I am intrigued by this name of AlgEternal. I love it. So tell us a little bit about that and how that came about.
Well, it took us a while to figure out the name. We started looking into the production of algae, or the non-production of algae, I might say, in around 2008. And over time, we had to choose a name that we thought would fit. And AlgEternal basically is algae, the eternal resource. As algae's been around since the beginning of time, it was the first living organism on the planet, and it's responsible for over half the air that we breathe. We started taking a close look at it, but we thought that name fit.
Now, how is your technology that you have, and really it's a process as well as a technology, Hugh, different from other algae production technologies?
Well, it is a process. The things that we looked at when we first started looking at algae, and was it viable? Was anybody producing enough algae to be commercially scalable, viable, if you will? And the answer to that was no. So we took a look at it from a farmer's point of view, if you will, and we began to explore, could we make a technology that produced enough algae to make a viable algae business, no matter what the byproduct was? You had to grow the algae. So indeed, that's what we started doing. We decided that the conventional methods of growing it in the pond, the numbers just didn't stack up to make it where you had enough algae for production. So we created what we call the VGM technology, the vertical growth module. And that allowed us to go up vertically and space the tubes out to where we had adequate photosynthesis, adequate light, if you will. And that was the first step. Once we had the volume, we had more square foot of production ground per square foot by up to 16 times over your conventional ponds. At that point, we had to figure out, well, how do we feed this quickly? How do we give it the CO2, the nutrients it needs, and expedite that delivery to each one of those tubes so that we get it going right away, if you will? And so we did that with pressurized manifolds, air deliveries. And it takes about 10 minutes, actually, for that process to take place in the early morning. And then we had to add automation to that. So basically, you're replacing some man hours there with automated technology that turns the fertilizer on and injects the CO2 and mixes it with the air. And we got that done. And some of the features that were inherent with it were very important. Let's say we have 300 of those systems on an acre. We needed to be able to extract that fluid at a high rate and deliver it to processing. And that's where a lot of your systems out there are having trouble and will in the future. That's a bottleneck, if you will. So we put 2 4-inch exhaust systems on the bottom of those reactors. And at that point, when they open, you're exiting 200 gallons per 15 seconds. Now, if you take and add that up times 300, that's 60,000 gallons of green water delivered to processing in 15 seconds.
That's incredible. If we can put this slide back up, because I think this is something that, Hugh, you're referring back to this technology. Looking at this, this is a very complex system, but yet it looks quite simple. So how did you manage to develop something that has this complexity, the efficiency, using technology, and of course using all the computing power possible, but at the same time allow it to work in a very efficient and low-cost manner?
Well, the vertical design takes care of a lot of that, because we inject the air at the bottom. We have a 6-inch tube, and that's the approximate depth that photosynthesis reaches in a pond. So basically at that point, the air rises. We only sparge air in it occasionally, so we've cut the power consumption way down. And then when we open the valves where everybody else is pumping, and they're pumping nutrients to it, we're not. You open the valves and it comes out by gravity. So we really came in under the threshold on power inputs. We're a fraction of the cost of other technologies. And that's what made it possible.
Now, looking at this, and I'm going to leave this up because this really gets to the heart of, you know, everything we're trying to do as we move to 2050, Hugh, that you and I have talked about, is that you need to have the things that are very efficient, but also they're using the least amount of power, regardless of how it's generated, whether it's fossil fuels or from renewables. And so when you're looking at this design, how did you factor that in, as well as that we need to have something that's very efficient, allows the maximum access, you know, for the algae to be able to grow and develop, you know, from a natural environment, but at the same time to make sure that we're reducing the energy load as much as possible?
Well, that took us probably 6 years of on-hand practice to develop everything that we needed there. And a lot of it came naturally, and again, it was inherent into the design of going up vertically and having gravity work for us rather than being in a pond and having to push liquid through or pump it. So that was largely responsible for all of your decrease in power inputs there, were those factors. And then you get into real low-cost solenoids where you have your automation equipment turns valves to open it for harvest, or it turns your compressor on and things like that. And it only runs for a fraction of the time because your air mixes it and it's in a vertical tube. So it's contained in a tube, but all of those factors working together, it just came together for us, and it was off the shelf parts. It had to be. We couldn't reinvent the wheel. We had to go and we had to find parts that were available that fit the criteria of what we were looking for to take all of those bottlenecks out of the equation. And that machine that you're looking at right there is the end result of that.
I'm going to let Joel ask the next question, and we're going to compress a couple of these so we can accelerate. This is a very interesting topic, Hugh, and thank you for your willingness to be able to come on and share. Joel?
Well, thank you, Sam. Hugh, how does AlgEternal's pure algae work when it's applied? How do people use it?
Hi, Joel. That's a good question. This is what we've learned so far. Rainwater is one of nature's ways to make plants grow. And everyone knows that plants grow better with rainwater compared to tap water. And rainwater does contain a small amount of algae. So we became suspicious. We were using it in drought conditions on trees because we had nobody to take all the algae we were growing all of a sudden. And it started making these trees come back, grow better. And at that particular point, we began to understand more about the rainwater in the algae appears to have some type of a process where it allows plants to take up nutrients. It triggers something. And you know, you used to see my mother used to use rainwater, and her mother used to use it on plants. We all know it grows better. So we felt like we were really onto something. Then when you dilute the pure algae out as recommended, it actually becomes a super rainwater. We're not using any petrochemical fertilizers, no liquid fertilizers, any of that in any of our tests.
Now, I'm going to interject this question, Hugh, about do the farmers need to do anything differently from their current dry or liquid fertilizers in using the pure algae?
No, they really don't. It actually becomes easier for them in most cases, because when you dilute it into the solution and you apply it as a liquid application, you're actually applying it through your same water delivery system to the roots or the foliage. You can also spray it on the foliage.
Now, looking at the cost savings and increase. Okay. Looking at the cost savings and increase in production, Hugh, using the pure algae over the current dry liquid chemical fertilizers, what are the savings and what are the additional benefits to the farmer?
The savings are 40 to 65% over the traditional chemical fertilizers that they use now. And the benefits, you cannot overdose with this application. It will not burn the crop. It won't impede normal growth if you put too much. And that's always a big item for them. They don't know exactly how to dose it when they first start using a new product. No problem. The pure algae doesn't leach from the topsoil. It remains in the topsoil and it's available for the plants as they need it. It can also be applied in dry and wet and rainy conditions, and you can't do that with other fertilizers. It has to have water to wash it off so it doesn't burn the crop.
Well, we're going to end up here. Actually, Joel had another burning question for you, but we're going to move on here, Hugh. We're running out of time, about 10 seconds. Where do you see your company going over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
That's a good question.
Got to be quick.
I think it'll grow exponentially because we are forced to take this route to solve our problems that we have now. So we should experience exponential growth.
Fantastic. Hugh Morris, Chief COO, Chief Operations Officer, AlgEternal Technology. Joel Coulter sitting beside me as we create the Emerald Planet.